December 18th, 1946, in Cincinnati, Ohio. Spielberg was raised in the suburbs of Haddonfield, New Jersey, and Scottsdale, Arizona. He started making amateur films while still in his teens. His desire to tell stories, as he will readily tell you, began very early in life.
I love ghost stories. I've always loved them. And I used to frighten my sisters with them. I used to frighten myself with them. And I just like telling ghost stories. And it's fun around the campfire when it's, you know, the only light is the lights on your faces. And if you take a few steps back, it's pitch black. Without a flashlight, you can't see your way back to your tent. It was always fun thinking I'd tell a really scary story. And then everybody would be so scared going back to the tents. And I wound up not frightening them as much as I frightened myself. I'd keep myself up awake. I'd turn my flashlight on. I'd just have a night light until the batteries went to yellow and then disappeared, you know, and I'd have no light at all. I would always wind up frightening myself more than other people. The very earliest memory that I recall that associates itself to filmmaking was this urgent need to not be punished by my parents for wrecking my Lionel train set. They would break sometimes, and my dad got frustrated one day, and he said to me, if I have to take one of these trains one more time back to the Lionel shop to get repaired, I'm taking the entire train set away from you. That's the end. And I remember trying to figure out, well, how can I, like, have this thrill of the great train wreck and not be deprived of my train? So I borrowed his little 8mm movie camera, and I actually filmed the train wreck. And all the cuts, which I didn't really understand what I was doing, but it was sort of intuitively, I knew that if one train went left to right, and the second train and another cut went right to left, and they both met in the middle with the third cut, it's pretty much what I used to do when I used to stick my eye down within an inch above the tracks to get the perspective of the trains going by when I was playing with my train set. And I did that on film. It didn't wreck the trains too bad, but I was able to run the film over and over again, and I really believe that was the first time I realized the power of film, you know, to be able to get away with something and not get punished for it.
Suicide. Look where our footsies are. Who's not on their marksies? See, when you break the script down with a creative group that I got like this, I've got from Mike Riva doing the sets and Nick McLean on camera and this wonderful crazy group of kids and Spielberg looking over my shoulder all of the time, which I happen to love because I guess he's the biggest kid of them all and comes up with the best ideas.
I was attracted to young Sherlock because I love the Victorian period, and I thought I'd love to kind of play in there and create a kind of world of Victorian England. And I wanted to learn about special effects too. You know, not that I'm going to rely on them or they're going to be, you know, part of what I do all the time. But I do think you have to understand all that. You have to understand all the new tools that keep coming to film. Generally, with special effects things, they need to be in the script and discussed and elaborated on, and then all of that input that can take things to another, stage, or how to accomplish something that no one's sure how to pull that off.
The story of Back to the Future happened like this. After Used Cars, we wrote Back to the Future. And there was that 3-year span where I couldn't get a job directing. Or I wasn't offered anything that I wanted to direct until Romancing the Stone came along. I have a stack of rejection letters from everybody, every studio in town, except one guy, and that was Steven, who read it and said, yeah, I'll make this. And at the time, he had produced my first 2 movies, which were failures at the box office. So I said, Steven, if you produce this movie and this one doesn't perform, my career will probably be over. And he said, yeah, you're probably right. So he understood that completely. So because then I said, I'll be perceived as a guy who can only make a movie if you produce it. So then after I made Romancing the Stone, and then everybody who had rejected Back to the Future wanted to make Back to the Future. So I felt that it was only appropriate to take it to the one guy who had faith in it from the
find someone new. Won't he, Mr. Valiant?
Yeah, sure. Good-looking guy like that. Dames will be breaking his door down.
Dames? What dames? Don't think I'm the only one for me. You'll see. We'll ride them up this drizzling picadillo. We're gonna be happy again. You're that happy. Totally T-P-E-I.
Then I read the screenplay, and the inspired idea in the screenplay is in the first 3 pages, where the cartoon character steps out of a cartoon, and we realize that it slowly, visually, takes us into this unbelievable world where cartoon characters interact with human characters. And I said, now that I get. And then Steven was incredibly instrumental, because he's the only guy on the planet who was able to get all the competing cartoon characters from all the competing studios in one movie.
From this.
Everyone thought we had designed the end of the movie for a sequel, which we did it as a joke, and I can understand why everyone thinks that way, but we just we were just holding on for dear life. We just wanted the movie to open, let alone think about a sequel. Everyone made this assumption that this was all by grand design, and it wasn't. The fact that Marty and the Doc fly off at the end, we thought was just a good button for the end of the movie.
Cape Fear was a project that De Niro asked me to do, and also Spielberg. And I just come off Goodfellas, and Steve always told me, he said, I'm going to do a picture, I'm going to produce a picture someday of yours that's going to make the most money you've ever made. Not that I would make it personally, but the film will have made it, of course. So I changed certain aspects of the story that were more to my taste, and De Niro had a great desire to play Max.
You'll think you're better.
What we're trying to do in this picture is really give you a fun house where you're scared but you're having fun. Almost like a roller coaster ride, when you're, oh, it's going to happen, but you're still got your eyes open and you're not hiding under the seat. It's got a little bit of everything.
Try and find me a specimen.
Hey, perk off, Lloyd. If we find the spider that did this, you can arrest him.
Generally, stars bring baggage with them. Casper, I was afraid, probably had a little bit of his own. I mean, you've been searching for a friend for, maybe 50 years longer. You're going to walk onto a film set. I honestly didn't know if we were going to hit it off.
Well, I had just gotten through reading it when they called. So I said, sure, but it needs this, and it needs that, and then they gave me the screenplays later, and the screenplays were there's about 3 or 4 of them, they were all off in different directions. Some of them changing the whole storyline completely, so that didn't seem adequate. And then, but Stephen and I rewrote it. We did in fact, he was back east in the Hamptons on the summer, and I was up in Northern California, Mount Shasta, so we wrote it by fax machine. I'd dictate some pages here and then I'd fax them to him, and he would make some changes and dictate some pages on other scenes and send them back and forth. So we did this for about a week, and finally we agreed that this was the screenplay.
I truly believe that we don't have a clue about what's really going on. I love the fact that I could make a movie and play it totally for the reality of the situation with aliens in it and let the world know that we truly don't know. I mean, every day I walk around New York going, alien, gotta be an alien.
At any given time, there are around 1,500 aliens on the planet. Most of them right here in Manhattan. This is one of the great franchises of all time, and I love the Jurassic Park movies. And I also was very flattered that Steven would ask me to do it. It's a lot of trust that he's placing in me. It's a huge responsibility.